This is a really bizarre case, so viewer discretion is advised. Cayetano Santos Godino was born in October 31, 1896. He was also known as the big-eared Midget. Santos was an Argentinian serial killer who terrorized a town, Buenos Aires, at age 16. In the early 20th century, he was responsible for murder of 4 children, the attempted murder of another 7 children, and 7 counts of arson. Santos was one of 8 boys. He had a father and a mother, Flo and Lucia, who were both Italian and chose to disembark in Argentina hoping to improve their life, but they were abusive alcoholics. Santos's father contracted syphilis before Santos was born, causing him to experience serious childhood health problems. Starting in childhood, Santos killed cats and birds and enjoyed playing with fire. His violent behavior and lack of interest in education caused him to move from school to school. In 1904, when he was 7 years old, Santos beat 2-year-old Miguel and threw him into a ditch. A nearby official saw this and led the children to a police station where their mothers picked them up a few hours later. The next year, 1905, Santos beat Anna, a child in his neighborhood, with a stone. A police officer intervened, but Santos was released from jail due to his young age. Just 1 year later, in 1906, Santos killed 3-year-old Maria. It was his first murder, but it went unnoticed and would only be discovered years later when he confessed to the police himself. He said that in 1906 he took a girl about 3 years old to the wasteland on Rio de Janeiro Street, where he attempted to strangle her and then he buried her alive in a ditch, which he covered with cans. The authorities, upon learning of this crime, moved to the site but found that a 2-story building has been built there. However, a missing person complaint dating 29 March 1906 of a 3-year-old girl named Maria was filed at the 10th police station. The missing girl was never found. All of that happened before he even turned 10. He even murdered before he was 10. But when he turned 10, Santos' parents grew tired of his compulsive masturbation and irreverence. Not knowing what to do, his father reported him to the police, resulting in a 2-month jail term for him. On January 17, 1912, Santos set fire to a warehouse. When he was arrested, he told the police, "I like to see firemen working. It's nice to see how they fall into the fire." On January 26, 1912, Arturo, aged 13, was found dead in an abandoned house. A month and a half later, on March 7, 1912, Santos set fire to a dress of a 5-year-old, Reina, who did not recover and died some days later from the fire. In late September 1912, he set fire to a railway station. The fire was extinguished without extensive damage, but on November 8, 1912, he tried to choke an 8-year-old Roberto. He was arrested and charged with attempted murder, but he was released until the trial. 8 days later, on November the 16th, he assaulted 3-year-old Carmen, who suffered minor wounds before a police officer intervened, and Santos ran off. 4 days later, on November the 20th, he kidnapped 2-year-old Carolina, who cried out and was rescued by a neighbor. Later that month, he set fire to 2 large sheds, but the fires were quickly extinguished. 1 month later, on December the 3rd, Santos saw 3-year-old Gesualdo playing outside his house and offered to buy the boy some sweets to convince him to go with him. These next parts are going to be a bit disturbing, so viewer discretion is strongly advised here. So Santos provided him a few sweets and offering him some more. He ended up taking the boy to a country house. When they were inside, he threw him to the floor and unsuccessfully tried to choke him with his belt. Then he ended up cutting his belt, and he tied his hands and his legs. He started beating him and considering hammering his head. He left the small house looking for a nail, and he saw Gesualdo's father, to whom he said he does not know where the boy was. He then re-entered the house with the nail. He hammered the nail into the side of Gesualdo's skull and hit the corpse. The body was found by the father minutes later, at 8 p.m. Santos went to the wake and touched the skull where he had fixed the nail. At 5:30 am on December the 4th, 1912, he was arrested by the police, confessing to his crimes. On January the 4th, 1930, he entered a reformatory, where he tried to kill some of the inmates, because medical reports declare him insane. The judge discontinued the case and ordered him to stay in the reformatory. On November the 12th, 1915, an appeal was approved, ordering him to move to jail on November the 20th. On March the 28th, 1923, Santos was transferred to a penitentiary. Throughout 1933, he spent some time in the hospital for beating he suffered from the inmates after he killed 2 of their pet cats. From 1935 onwards, he was always ill and received no visitors until he passed on in November the 15th, 1944. Under suspicious circumstances there was, however, much speculation that his death was due to internal bleeding caused by a castration outbreak. When the prison was torn down and authorities were digging up the remains of dead inmates, his bones were mysteriously missing, and to this day, his remains has not been found. Maybe he's still with us. No, I'm just playing.